Hello, and welcome to Melanated Homeschooling Families Podcast, a safe place for melanated families and homeschoolers, business owners, and overcomers to come together to connect, communicate, support, and introduce you to some amazing melanated families from all over the world that homeschool and more. I'm your co-host, Simone Nofel from Hardy and Free, and today we're going to talk about living a non-toxic life with my husband and life partner, Jack Nofel. We will discuss why making the switch is so impactful and how we can embrace it with our young children. You might remember today's guest from our first episode, Jack Nofel. He is a retired Army officer with a passion for teaching leadership development to young men and women. He is going to share with us his experience of what it was like to live with somebody who was making this drastic change in their life and if he ever jumped on board. Let's jump right in. Welcome again, Jack. I'm so glad to have you here today. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself for the audience members who may not know about you?
Thanks for having me again. I'm happy to be back. And a little bit about me is I just retired from the U.S. Army. I was a medical officer. I worked on leadership for the last 13 years, I'd say, and developing it and just having mentors and mentees. And yeah, it's totally different when you have a kid. That you're not a mentor, but you are a mentor and a teacher, and everything that leadership has and parents have, it's all kind of like a whole bundle of leadership, I guess, and guidance.
Yeah. So the topic that I wanted to dive in today, I got a lot of questions on Instagram about this, about making the switch to a more conscious way of living, a non-toxic life or a plant-based life, however you want to go about saying it. The gist here is that when we know that there's changes that can be made, or we know that there's alternatives to the things that we use in our life or what we do in our life, we know there's alternatives, but how do we actually take that leap of faith and kind of switch over our life to it? Like, how do we make that change? And then how does that change last? And for me, and personally, I made the changes kind of cold turkey, like very quickly. And you witnessed that. And so I want to share a little bit about my story on why I started living a non-toxic life. And then I want to hear from you on how it was living with me through that moment, witnessing my journey, and then how your journey was affected by that. So sound good?
Let's go.
All right. So I started switching over in about 2019 is when I started. I pretty much just trashed all of my hair products, my skin products, and cleaning products that had chemicals in it and were not plant-based derived. And for me, that was a change that I started again, like during pregnancy, and it just lasted. I saw the effects that it had on my body. My skin changed. I felt like my mood was more stable, and so these changes that were happening within me, I wanted it to last. And so for me, that was the first step. And it was a pretty easy one, just to be able to, go into the store and look for, laundry detergent or dish soap that, they have those in the big chain stores, and you can find them at Safeway, at Publix, at Kroger, at Fred Meyer, all these places that are easily accessible for most people. And so if you're looking to make that change in your life and you want to live a more non-toxic life, that it's actually like, know that it's actually easy. It's not very difficult. And financial wise, it's a pretty comparable price from using these chemicals and these cleaners and these products that have so much toxins in them. And a lot of these toxins, when you read the ingredient label, and if you start getting into that habitually, I read labels all the time. It's a second nature for me. And so when you start looking at these labels, you can Google on your phone or whatever, or use whatever search engine and look up what they are and where they came from, how they were made, and what effects they have on the body. And so a lot of these ingredients on cleaning products, skincare, hair care are actually linked to increased cancer rates. And so they have carcinogens in these products that we use directly on our skin. And one thing that I share often with my community and with my clients is that it takes only 26 seconds for something to absorb into your skin before it gets into your blood system and affects you. And so, cleaning products, like again, cleaning products, skin products, hair products are all things that we can make simple and easy changes. And so, that's where I would recommend anybody start. And so well, I'll pause there on my personal story and ask you, what do you use now, or how was that when you were experiencing me trashing certain products, and especially when it came to cleaning products like laundry detergent and dish soap, like how was that experience? And do you actually like the alternatives, like the plant-based alternatives?
It's funny because I just had this conversation with a friend yesterday, and he's going through the same thing where his girlfriend is throwing out stuff and putting more natural stuff into their house and products. So for me, I did not like it at all. When it first happened, I was so upset that you're throwing out all this stuff and we could give it to soldiers and stuff like that. Obviously, hindsight, we knew that. And at the end, we actually did that with a lot of our food when we switched over. So it wasn't more about that. It was more about like it just disappeared overnight. And the products didn't matter to me. A little bit, it was like, oh, I missed my certain lotion because I just got used to being having a certain lotion for 10 years. And then I realized, oh, this is not great. And then you gave me a new one, and I was like, oh, this is better actually. And it felt better. So finding a product that I actually liked and knowing it was better definitely kept me on board. And then that goes through all of them. From my deodorant, knowing that it had metals in it and was not good for me, and then switching over to something that's non-toxic, it just became second nature then. But at first, it was a very hard bump in the road. And at first, it was not like a bump; it felt like a hurricane happening. But now I look back, I'm like, oh, it's just a little bump in the road, right? Changing over just these products because then we had to go through food and all these other products that have a lot of toxic chemicals. So yeah, it was hard at first, but I knew that you're doing the right thing. It was the best thing for our family. And knowing that we had a newborn at home really was just like, all right, I need to make these changes because I knew the system has been rigged to let Americans make whatever product they want without any um, real regulations and boundaries. Like they'll say they have regulations, but they don't. They just do whatever they want in America. And, that's kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And there is a lot of great products out there. And now I'm a lot happier.
Yeah, and that kind of, brings up another point of in the United States compared to Europe or a lot of countries, even in Asia, that the approval list of what the FDA actually can approve versus what they will ban, our list here in the United States is far, far, far more extensive and longer than the list in Europe. So here in the United States, there might be a list of 10 banned, chemicals or ways to put in products versus in Europe, there's like a list of like 100 things that are banned. And so, start asking yourself that if you're listening and you're a citizen of the United States, and start asking yourself, like, why do we allow certain chemicals or synthetics into our products and our food, and other countries don't? Like, what's up with that, and where does that come from? Start asking those questions because those are all, it's all part of our daily lives. Everything that we come in encounter with can be done better, to some degree. And so that kind of brings us over into the food, right? So the non-toxic way of living also is one of the most important parts, in my opinion, is our food. I kind of mentioned this in the last episode of, like, food is medicine. And so what we put into our bodies, especially when it's food, is so important. And so there's this constant back and forth for me when I'm in the grocery store or at restaurants, when it comes to reading labels and finding an alternative to the things that either I grew up with or that I've grown to love throughout my life, and trying to find an alternative that might not have those chemicals in it. And so what's it like for you shopping at the store when you know that your wife is very adamant about certain labels or certain ingredients and labels? Like, how does that feel for you?
Well, I mean, again, having our son helps because it's like you don't go there with you in mind. It's more of a selfless, like, hey, I want him to have the healthiest foods he can have. And the ways to do that are to eliminate all those toxic chemicals that they put in food. So to me, it's super easy. I'm like, hey, most of my food's coming from the produce section. We're going to be where everything's raw and we can just pick it out ourselves. And there's a whole organic section there. So that's super easy. And then it's funny because as you're going through the grocery store, you hit those aisles where it'll be like health food. Well, if health food's here, then what's the rest of the store for? Right? It's just like, and I'm sure people have seen memes and stuff like that about the same topic, but it's serious. There's a whole health section in organic foods. So what's the rest of the foods? Artificial flavors, chemically made, GMOs, just stuff that's not good for the human body, and it's causing a lot of problems in the human body. I was gonna say children, but everybody actually. It's not just us. So going now, it's nice to be awake and be like, wow, holy crap, I don't need most of this stuff in this grocery store. And now I look right past all this stuff. So it's like if I'm going down a cookie and chips aisle, super easy to just walk right past all of that and not even want it.
Mm.
So and then if you want snacks, of course there's organic snacks that are, you know, gluten free with less chemicals, more natural, and those snacks taste actually better than the ones that are old, because the old ones now, I if I eat it, it's like, oh man, what am I eating? My teeth feel it, like I just my body feels worse when I'm eating it. And when I'm eating the healthy stuff, my body is like, all right, this is good. And a lot of times it may be like, oh, I'm still hungry, but I definitely know my body is at least taking it and using all the nutrients it can.
Yeah. And what's your, I love, we've talked about this before, and I would love for you to share here with everybody listening is why do you choose organic? Like, what's up with organic, and why should people try their best to pick the organic version
All right,
of?
there's so many ups and downs with organic. You could read so many things because journalists aren't accountable anymore. They could just write whatever they want. So there's going to be people that you're going to read and they're going to say organic is fake and you don't need it. But if you look into like the whole farming and agriculture of it, organic has 5 to 10 pesticides overall, and it can even have less than that, right? So that's it seems like a lot, right? But then you go to non-organic, and it has anywhere from 50 to 70 different types of pesticides sprayed on it. That's a ton. That's way more. And then what you're getting with those extra 40, 50 pesticides are other chemicals that we just don't know what they are. We don't know what the farmers are using. And as we've seen in the last couple of years with Roundup, all of a sudden Roundup's the worst thing in the world, causing cancer. And if you have that directly onto your food, what do you think that's going to do directly to the body? It definitely cannot go and be beneficial for the body. So getting organic, at least you're getting less pesticides. At least for me, that's how I feel. I feel like I eat organic because I don't want those extra chemicals sprayed on there. And I think maybe consciously people were growing it with intention of being organic, of being in a better area, maybe better soil. I don't know. But I just like to think that way, that it isn't grown intentionally and a little bit better and not sprayed and genetically modified at all.
Yeah, and I think that's even a good point too about like, we've lost connection with our food source.
Yeah.
As a society and in humanity, we've lost touch with that. So, think about your great grandparents, they were growing their own food in their gardens, and or they knew the farmer up the street or the family up the street that were growing, you know, tomatoes and onions, and but they were growing berries, so they swapped, and there is a sense of connection with our food source. And so if you can get close, the closer you can get to your food source, the better. So if you're able to shop at farmers markets instead of these big chain grocery stores, then do that. If you're able to, go to actually the location of where the farm is and say, hey, do you guys have a farm stand? A lot of farms, they'll have farm stand at the beginning of their property where you can go up and they can have their abundance, their extra, produce or their extra harvest out there for you to be able to pick up right there at their farm. Get to know the farmers in your area, and like try to connect with that community. Go to the farmers markets on the weekends or during the week, whatever it is for your area. Because the closer that we can get to the food source, the better. And those farmers will tell you exactly how they grow their food, and they love talking about it. That's their passion. They love what they do. And so you can learn more about your food and where it's coming from, instead of, like Jack was mentioning, being in this monocrop field and getting sprayed by pesticides on a daily basis. These are the things that we have to start thinking about, because it really does affect our bodies on a physiological level, on a mental level, and a spiritual level. Because again, with this perspective of holistic health and holistic wellness, we really have to think that everything is connected, even within ourselves as an individual person. And so if we're eating something that has pesticides or chemicals in it, and that's going into our blood system, that's going into our brains, how does that affect then our hormone production in our brains and our brain functioning? And those things all impact our mental health. And so if you're listening here and you're struggling with your mental health, think about the little things in your life that can change, the habits that you're doing on a daily basis that can change, that will impact your mental health. So if you've tried different things and you're like, oh, I'm still stuck in this funk, or I have anxiety or whatever it is, and you've tried all these things, like, think smaller, think that what are the small things that I can change. And so what if a slight change in the way you eat can have a huge impact on your mental health? Think about n- no longer eating regular produce and only buying organic produce. So that's fruits and vegetables. Just that one change in that one category of food. What if just that can change your entire life? And so I think that's something that I want to throw out to the audience right now, is just like the simple changes that we can make to switch over to a non-toxic life can be a gradual process. It doesn't have to be like how I am, kind of extreme and just, cold turkey everything overnight. It could be where, like, okay, in the month of January, we're going to switch all of our cleaning products. The month of February, we're going to clean all of our skin, hygienic products, like our shampoo, our conditioner, our soaps, and gradually do that. And that's what I love to do with my clients. And the work that I do is so awesome, is because everybody is different. And so to cater to one person or one family's needs is going to be different than the other. So one plan I might have for a client might be switching up their things on a weekly basis because they can do that and it's attainable for them, versus another person could be on a monthly basis. And so just, take a moment, you can pause this right now, or reflect back after you listen to this, and like, what are those gradual small step changes that you can make? Can you commit to making a change every month? If so, then write that out. Say that to your partner or your kids, that, okay, in the month of February, we're clearing out all of the canned food in our pantry and we're going to switch it to organics. You guys can donate it to food banks, whatever you feel is right for you and what's aligned for you. However, just make those small changes.
I also want to add, I know we're talking about more produce and vegetables because we have a high plant-based diet more in our family, but I do eat meat. And so the grass-fed beef has all those vitamins, all the nutrients still in it. So you're still getting all the good stuff. And a lot of the meat that you get at the grocery store, guess what? It's injected with all kinds of stuff. It's treated bad. So if you're eating food that is being mistreated, separated from their family, especially mammals like cows, they have feelings. So you think those feelings don't go into that meat, and then the hormones go into that meat, and then they eat corn and crap that they don't normally eat, and it's just not going to be good meat that you're going to eat, right? So a lot of times what they're saying is you're not getting the proper protein, you're not getting the proper nutrients that meat normally gives you. And so when you go back and get the grass-fed beef, it tastes different, it tastes healthier. Happier cows make happier meat, makes a happier belly after you eat it. So that's just something to think about. And as I added meat back into my diet after 2 years of not really eating meat, every time I eat something that's grass-fed or organic, it feels way better. And I don't really eat chicken or pork, but I do eat beef, and I could tell you that I could feel a huge difference doing that.
And what is that difference like? Why should people try going for grass-fed beef instead of like the regular kind? Like, what's the actual difference that you feel? Is it like their energy levels? Is it your
Oh,
sleep quality? Like, what
yeah,
is it?
everything. So for me, right away, and Simone could testify to this, that when I eat grass-fed beef, I feel like this surge go through me of just energy. I feel so good. My body was craving it. I don't eat it often, but when I do, it's just my body's getting that iron, it's getting the protein, it's getting all the stuff that it was needing, and I could just feel that. Now, if I eat something that's not so healthy of meat and it's not organic, not grass-fed, I don't feel anything. I feel sluggish, and I feel like my body is taking so much time to break it down,
Mm.
and it does take hours on end. And instead, that grass-fed beef feels like it's just my body's going right through it. I'm still hungry. I'm just like, wow, that was great. Surge of energy, and it was just, yeah, night and day difference.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point that I want to make here too. With everything that is non-toxic, it's going to be absorbed in your body way quicker and faster, and then be able to also eliminate from your body faster. And so when you're using things with chemicals, it's like almost gets trapped in your body, and in order for it to get out, you have to detox by either fasting or taking, some detox teas or supplements. And so it's like, what can we do? How can we help our bodies to be able to move through the elimination process, whether it's, like I said, through sweat or urine, feces, like whatever it is that we're doing to eliminate, our elimination system is so important for our bodies. What comes in needs to come out. So when it comes in and it stays in, that stagnancy, that stuck feeling is going to affect your whole entire system. It's going to affect, like I said, that leaky gut can, when things are stuck in our system, it will go into our blood system. When we put things on our skin, it's gonna stay there. And so, like, how can we help our bodies do what they're naturally meant to do? And that's going back to natural ways of living. Natural soaps, natural foods, things that our great grandparents were doing and eating. That was what is meant for our biology and our physiology. And so getting back to that natural way of living and leaving behind the chemicals, leaving behind the synthetics, to me is just so imperative to happiness and to health through and through.
I agree.
Yeah.
And being intentional overall just makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Just knowing that you're putting in the effort to be intentional with all the products, all the food, makes you overall feel better. Now, is there a bunch of junk food and junk that says organic? Yeah, but you'll go through those waters yourself and talk to friends and figure out which ones are the best ones for you and test them out. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing too, is we tested out so many products. You have to test the things out. It's like restarting over, and you can make it fun also. So when you're starting over, it's like, all right, now I'm going to find this new thing I like to eat. Or I like to find a new lotion that I use or hair product or so on and so forth, right? It's actually can be fun. And at the end, it's like you go to a store and your mind is totally different. It's like, wow, I don't even see all the junk in the synthetic crap. I see all the healthy stuff that is available, and now that pops out. And so it is a little bit fun. And teaching Destin, our son, is absolutely makes it better. So if you're a father or a husband out there, take your kids, go to the store, and explain to them why you're buying things. And if you're giving them fruity pebbles, say, for breakfast one day, and now you realize about red 40 dye and all the dyes that are in there that are bad for them, go find something that's maybe similar, and you want to stick to cereals, that's fine. There's organic, gluten-free, whatever you want is out there now and available, and explain to your kids as you're buying it. I think that's a great way to do it. I know when we take Destin, we're always telling him, hey, check this out. This is why we're buying it, because it's actually healthier for your body, and your body's going to be thankful for it once you eat it and absorb it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great point of like making it fun, because it really can be like we were a big thing for us was the dairy alternatives. So when we first stopped consuming dairy, and we had to find a different milk, we had to find different yogurt, we had to find different creamer, different cheese. So there's a lot of plant-based alternatives, but like how do you choose just one? And that was part of the fun. It was like, okay, we've tried probably at least 8 different types of plant-based milks, and so we finally find our favorite one. And what happens if that favorite one isn't on the shelf, and like then you experiment and you find a different one. And that could be fun, like even for your children. Like it could be a game, like, okay, we're gonna pick out, you get to pick today which alternative you're going to do. Is it going to be this one or this one? And you bring them to the store, and like he said, make it fun, because it is a really great learning opportunity. Instead of telling our kids, oh, this is just good for you, like explain why, or explain why what they were eating isn't good for them. Like what does it actually do to their bodies? Like I love this chart that I created and I share with my clients, but I think my son is now ready for it, right? Like you would say, Dustin's ready to learn like why, which foods are good for us. Like, is it good for your heart? Is it good for your brain? Is it good for your bone density? Like what in particular is it that we want to give our children, and why do we not pick the other version? And so I think that will help, especially if you have children who have already been eating a certain type of way that you might want to get away from, like to help them understand why you're making this change, is to be able to actually communicate and explain to them what's going on in their bodies and why they should do it. And if they like certain things, like if your children are athletes, tell them that like you'll be able to run faster, you'll be able to jump higher, like whatever it is, because your bones are going to be stronger if you eat this instead of these fruit snacks that are full of all these dyes. Or like you'll be able to have a calm body, or you'll be able to focus on the things that you love to do better, because your body is going to be stronger. And so try to get more specific, try to be just very honest on what the processes that you're going through, because change for anybody can be difficult, especially for children who may not have a voice, a voice in your family as much as you do, to be able to really include them and educate them on these things.
And I think one last thing is when you include the kids, you're going to see that they tend to find the ones that are actually healthier. Dustin always, when we offer options, this is another thing when you're changing, offer options. So don't be at dinner or lunch or breakfast and be like, this is what you got to eat it or else. Because now you're changing your whole diet for the family. All right. So it's good to have multiple options. Say if it's berries and oatmeal, maybe, hey, if you don't want oatmeal, then we can make you eggs, right? Because we still eat eggs and we try to get ones from the farm if we can. Otherwise, we still look for free range organic eggs too. So yeah, you're going to see that the kids really end up eating the healthier stuff and they seem to love the best version of it too. It's with our milk, it was Dustin wouldn't drink a lot of it. And then we watched YouTube explaining on which milks are the best, right? And or non-dairy milks. And when we switched to the one that they recommended as the number one, he started drinking milk all the time. He loved it. I did too. I was just like, wow, this is so much better. And you find out there's like pea protein, magnesium, vitamin D, all these other great vitamins inside of there. So it's a lot of fun to watch your kids change their diet and pick what they think is their favorite, because you're going to find out if it's their favorite, it's probably going to become your favorite too. So it's a lot of fun. And fathers and husbands out there, or fathers and husbands, have fun with it. Don't let moms, wives just take over and do it themselves. I think at first that gave me anxiety and made it not as fun for me. Once I got involved and actually was doing the grocery shopping or going and doing other things like getting the lotions and hygiene products, it was way better and made me feel I was involved in the change with my family.
Yeah, because there was actually quite a few things that you went and got on your own that I had no idea. Like, I think your deodorant was one of them, your toothpaste, like you found the plant-based versions of it. And, that's just so, for me, comforting on these versions, because, it's really nice to be able to know that we're also helping not only our bodies and ourselves, but also the planet. Because a lot of times using those chemicals and synthetics, it's just seeping into, like, where do you think it goes when you're done? It's going also into the soil, into our ground. Like, all these things, like, don't just disappear, like they're still here. And so if you're able to get the eco-friendly version on, it's usually also going to be non-toxic, and so it's going to be non-toxic for you and for the planet.
And families, just be intentional with everything and look into it. Don't be afraid to slow down at the stores when you're buying things. Look at ingredients. And a good thing that Simone taught me when we were doing the change and she was learning was look for products that have less ingredients. Let's stick to under 10 ingredients. And you're going to find out when it has less ingredients, it's always a little bit more natural, more organic anyway. So if you start doing that, it's going to be a great habit and it will lead you to success. Good luck with your changes. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's probably the best practical tip here, is that if the ingredient label has less than 10 or less than 5 things, it's probably good to go. And just like you said, get in the habit of reading those labels. So thank you guys again for being here and listening to us share, and we'll see you guys next time. CTRmedianetwork.com sponsors Melanated Homeschooling Show and Podcast. CTR Media Network is a marketing and podcasting network that reaches 350 million global listeners in over 40 countries. CTR Media Network specializes in helping entrepreneurs and podcasters grow and maximize their visibility. In addition, CTR Media Network provides access to impactful positive media and content designed to help you walk into your purpose while positively impacting the world with good. Go to ctrmedianetwork.com today to learn more.